Hey everyone, welcome back to another tier list. This is one of the directors I spoke about in my previous video that I was trying to get through his filmography just so that I could finish all of his films before I did my tier list. And I knocked off the last couple of his movies over the last few days just so I could get around to doing this video. So obviously it's Joel Schumacher. He's done 23 films in total. I'd seen a whole handful of them a few years ago, and then I kind of just casually watched random ones here and there that I hadn't seen. And recently I thought, oh, there's only a couple more I've got to go. So I watched them as well as rewatched a couple that I hadn't seen in a few years, and it changed my opinion on him as a director quite a bit. To be definitely a lot more respectful of what he's done throughout his career, because I think most people straight away jump to Batman and Robin and Batman Forever, and they just pin that on him and say, oh, this guy sucks because he made the worst Batman movie of all time. And yeah, he did make a terrible Batman film, but he's made 23 films, and a handful of which are actually really excellent movies that I love. There's actually five that I think are just really great films, and a whole handful of really solid ones as well. He has made his share of trashy movies that we'll get to. But yeah, we'll get to them when we get to them. So this list is in no particular order by the looks of it. It is all 23 of his films that I've now seen. So kicking things off, we have Flatliners. So this is a pretty fun, original, kind of surgical, medical student thriller, I'll call it. It's a good film. It's got Kiefer Sutherland, who he's worked with a few times. It came out in the early 90s. Julia Roberts, who he worked with again after this film. It is a good film, an original concept. It's done pretty well. I know there's been a remake of it over the past few years, but I haven't seen that. I've heard bad things about it. And I don't often watch remakes of films that I like the original of, just because it seems kind of unnecessary for it to even exist. So the original Flatliners is a good film. I'm going to put it in the B tier. I don't love it, but I do think it's a solid film. As for everything that goes in the B tier, it's a good film that I like quite a bit. So next up we have Trespass, and this is his last film that he made in 2011 before, he passed away in 2020, but this is the last film he actually made in his career. And it stars Nicolas Cage and Nicole Kidman, who he'd worked with both previously. It's a very typical run-of-the-mill home invasion thriller film. There's nothing amazing about it at all. This is, as I said, this is one of the ones that I had to watch that I hadn't watched yet, so I just watched it a couple days ago. And it's okay. There's okay performances. It's passable as a kind of background cliche thriller film, but honestly, there's nothing that much to it. I'm going to put it in the D tier. It's perfectly watchable as a one-time watch, but as for most of his recent films before his career ended, his last 4 or so films were just really bad. I didn't really get into any of them, and his last one was no exception for that. So next we have the Batman films that he made. So Batman Forever was his kind of follow-up to Tim Burton's Batman and Batman Returns films. A lot of people hate on both of these films, especially the next one, but I loved them when I was a kid. I haven't really seen them since then. I've recently gone back and watched random scenes and bits and pieces. I remember loving them when I was a kid, but honestly now, like, obviously not much appeals to me with these films because they're definitely going for that campier, kid-friendly vibe, which is fine. But Batman Forever was definitely better than Batman and Robin. You had the added bonus of Val Kilmer as Batman, who's much better than George Clooney was. Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones as the villains, extremely over the top, but they give memorable performances in a good way. The movie's not terrible. As I said, its target audience is probably different from what it should have been, but kids love these movies, and they definitely did when I was a kid. I'm going to put it in the C tier because I don't think Batman Forever is a terrible film, but it's definitely nothing compared to a lot of other Batman films, like the ones that came before it, and a lot that have come since as well. So that leads us into Batman and Robin. This is straight away in the F tier. It's a terrible film. It takes that campiness that Batman Forever had and it just puts it on steroids, and you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. George Clooney is terrible as Batman here. It's just very cringy in all the worst ways. It's a terrible film. I mean, little kids will like it. I did, but once you grow up, you just realize how bad of a movie it is. I would really like to see a Batman film, though, that does focus on Mr. Freeze but does it right, because we haven't really had that before or since. But yeah, as for this movie, it was really terrible. Next up, we have 8mm. Now, this is a really good film. I'll put it at the top of the B tier. It's probably going to be it's probably going to stay at the top of the B tier, I think. I actually ordered this on Blu-ray the other day. But I think it's a really good, really solid psychological thriller film. It's probably his darkest movie, written by the guy who wrote Seven. It's not as good as Seven, but it is a solid film. It deals with some pretty heavy subject matter. Nicolas Cage is great here. He's not as over the top as he usually is. He gives a really subtle kind of performance. Joaquin Phoenix is here. He's really good. You've got James Gandolfini as well. A really great cast. It's just a really dirty, grimy, and gritty thriller. And I really enjoy it for that, even though it does obviously touch on some pretty intense subject matter. It is a really good film, and I do like those kind of movies. Next, we have The Lost Boys. This is an iconic classic film. And to be honest, I hadn't seen this movie much until recently. I remember watching it when I was a teenager and liking it, but never really coming back to it. And a couple months ago, I rewatched it and just thought it was amazing. Like, I didn't know what I was missing back then, I think, because I've rewatched a lot of films lately that I grew up with or watched once off 10, 15 years ago and have found myself loving them, which is really cool to kind of rediscover these films. So Lost Boys is an S-tier film. Most people would probably say it's his best film as a director. It's definitely in his top 2 or 3 for me. I recently bought it on 4K as well, and it looks great. Rewatched it on 4K. It's an excellent film. Kiefer Sutherland gives a great performance as Michael, or David. The head vampire is David. Michael is the other lead. But it's an excellent film. It's pretty much that film that captures the essence of 80s movies. If anyone wants to see a movie that looks like the 80s and has that 80s feel, this is the perfect movie for that, because everything about it, the characters, the costumes, the hairstyles, and the music, to its core, it's an 80s film, and it has that all over it. But that doesn't really age it. It's such a good movie that it just works still. And yeah, it's a great film. Would highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Next up, we have Dying Young. This is another film he made with Julia Roberts. They did it straight after Flatliners, and it's a very melancholy, kind of boring, romantic drama film about a dying cancer patient. And Julia Roberts is looking after him, and of course she falls in love with him. It's very cliched. It's one of his weaker films, definitely. I thought it was okay when I watched it, but it's probably a D tier film, maybe above Trespass even. But yeah, it wasn't that good. It was definitely one of his weakest. It's pretty average. There's nothing that redeemable about it. Julia Roberts is always likable though. But I didn't really like the male lead in the film. And there was just nothing that memorable about it that held my attention or made me think, oh yeah, this is, a standout in this kind of genre film, but it wasn't, unfortunately. So we go from that to what I consider his best film, and that's Falling Down. So this is going way up the top of the S tier. I didn't watch this movie until like a year ago. For some reason, I never saw it, even though it's Joel Schumacher and it's Michael Douglas, who's a great actor, and they teamed up in the early 90s to make this really great psychological thriller film about a guy that's just losing his mind, and he's lost control, and he's so desensitized to society and all the issues going on, and it's pretty much like Grand Theft Auto, the game, if it was a movie. That's what I felt like while watching it anyway. It felt like GTA as a film. And I really like that about it, because you're just following this character on his day. He's really annoyed, he's peed off. It starts with him in the morning in his car and it ends in the evening. And you just follow him throughout the city, seeing all these crazy things, doing all these crazy things and saying stuff, pretty much becoming like a massive police target as he's going. And leaving all this destruction behind him. But it's a really great film. It's super entertaining, even though it's very dark and twisted at the same time. I think it's an excellent movie. One of the best 90s films, one of the best Michael Douglas films, and easily Joel Schumacher's best film, in my opinion. Next, we have another 90s film he did called The Client. This is, he did 2 John Grisham adaptations in the 90s, and they're always courtroom dramas. And The Client was a good one. I thought it was solid. It's another one I'll put in the B tier. Tommy Lee Jones was in this just before they did Batman Forever together. It was good. I remember liking it. I don't think it was as good as the other one they did together, which we'll get to. But I do think it's a solid courtroom drama film. Yeah, I don't have too much to say about it. It's a solid B tier. Next is the number 23. This is one I hadn't seen in years. I remember watching it when I was a teenager. It's probably the only one I'm least familiar with on this list now, just because it's been so long. But I didn't really feel like rewatching it because I didn't like it at all back then. It's one I'm going to throw it in the D tier. Again, it stars Jim Carrey in a serious role, so that's exciting, but I just remember it being dead boring and having nothing interesting about it. Like, there's this premise where he's seeing the number 23 everywhere, and it's becoming a big conspiracy in his mind. But the movie itself is just very underwhelming, and it was the start of the end for Joel Schumacher for me with his last 4 films, where they were all just pretty throwaway, bland, felt like TV movies almost, and that was another one of them. Next we have Cousins. This is a super underrated film in my opinion. I actually love this movie. I think it's a A-tier film. No one talks about this movie, and no one mentions it when they're saying their top 5 Schumacher films, but it's easily in his top 5 for me. It's a very, it's just a romantic comedy drama film about couples that are like cheating on each other, but it's told in a very light-hearted and comedic way where these two couples are in love with the other one's partners, and it's told over, I think, a period of a year at 3 weddings that occur throughout the year. And you've got Ted Danson and Isabella Rossellini in the leading roles, and they're both great here. It's a different kind of film for Joel Schumacher because it's just a light, even though its subject matter isn't necessarily light, it's a light, romantic kind of film. And I just really enjoyed it, and it was really funny as well. Jeff Bridges is actually in it. Lloyd Bridges, sorry, his father, and he's hilarious in this movie, as he is in pretty much everything. But yeah, Cousins is super underrated. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It was one of his late 80s films around the time that he made The Lost Boys. So yeah, definitely one of his sleeper films. Next up, we have A Time to Kill, and this is the other John Grisham film he did after The Client. And as I said, this one I actually really liked a lot more. I'm going to put it in the top at the top of the A tier. I have this one on Blu-ray as well. I think it's just a really interesting thriller as well as court case drama. You've got an early performance from Matthew McConaughey and Sandra Bullock. You've also got Kevin Spacey and Samuel L. Jackson, so a really great cast. I think it's set in Louisiana or somewhere around there, and I like those kind of locations for film. And this is just one of my favorite courtroom dramas. I think it's excellent, and the story's captivating, and you're really rooting for the good guys, for Matthew McConaughey to get Samuel L. Jackson's character off and all that. But yeah, it's an excellent film. I really enjoyed it a lot, and it's probably my favorite John Grisham adaptation that I've seen. But yeah, definitely an A-tier film. Flawless is a movie that I didn't think I would enjoy as much as I did, but I actually liked it quite a bit. I'm going to put it in the B tier up high. Robert De Niro, Philip Seymour Hoffman. It's a drama comedy film about a transgendered drag queen character, which is who Philip Seymour Hoffman plays, and Robert De Niro is his neighbor who's very conservative and hates him. And obviously they kind of start to build a friendship and relationship throughout the film as things go on and progress. But it's actually quite a good film, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. And I think Joel Schumacher actually wrote, directed, and produced the film, so it's very much his film. Obviously, being a gay man, this story came from him personally. But yeah, it was an enjoyable film. I liked it and had great performances. So next up we have Tigerland. This is the one film I think he's done that deals with war in any way, and it's also one that stars Colin Farrell. He did a few with him. And this film was actually another one I was surprised by and liked quite a bit. I'm going to put that up in the B tier too. It's got a really grungy kind of look to it though. The way it was filmed, I don't like the visual look of the film. Like, it's very dull and the colors are just drawn out of it almost to the point where it's black and white, but it's not. And very grainy, and it just doesn't look nice. But the film as a whole is actually a very good and entertaining film with great characters, and I actually enjoyed it quite a lot more than I thought I was going to, about these characters preparing for war and the kind of training camps they go through and all that. So next up, they collaborated again, Joel Schumacher and Colin Farrell in 2002 on Phone Booth, which is a very simple story, a very simple kind of thriller in the line of kind of like a Hitchcockian thriller where it's a one location movie in a phone booth literally for like 80 minutes, and it's a very, very good tense thriller. Another easy B tier film. Some people might put it higher, but for me it's probably high up in the B tier, which is still good. Another one with Kiefer Sutherland in the film as well. You got Forrest Whitaker as well, and it's a really tense film. If you're just in the mood for something really intense, a really good thriller with great characters and performances, it's like 80 minutes long, so you can watch that pretty quick and really get some enjoyment out of it. I thought it was really good. One of his better later films as well. So next up we have Bad Company. I believe this came out the same year as Phone Booth, but this movie is terrible. I did not like this film at all. I'm going to put it at the bottom of the D tier. It's not quite an F tier film. It's got Anthony Hopkins, who's a great actor, but don't really know what he's doing here because there's nothing that stands out about his performance. I think it was probably just like a cash grab role for him. Chris Rock's here. The movie doesn't really know what it wants to be. It's kind of like a CIA spy thriller comedy, but it doesn't really blend any of that well. And it's very forgettable. Like, I watched it a few weeks ago and I can't remember much about it at all now. Just remember it being very underwhelming and not funny, not intense or anything like that. It didn't really succeed in any way that I thought it might. But then again, I don't think he's really well known for this film anyway. But yeah, D tier film for me. Veronica Gruen was a really good film. Another solid B tier. I'm going to put it... I'll just put it here for now. All the B tier films are pretty much equal though. But this is based on a true story, I think. Cate Blanchett plays this journalist, and she's looking into like the underground drug trade and everything like that, where these kids are getting their drugs from. And if you don't know the story, she ends up being assassinated at the end of the film for kind of going in too deep. But it was a really good film. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Performances were really good. It had that grungy handheld camera kind of feel to it. And it had a really good soundtrack as well. I really liked the music in the film. It was really emotional, especially towards the end. But yeah, I thought it was a solid film. So next up we have Phantom of the Opera. This is one I hadn't seen until literally like a week ago. I watched it for the first time. For some reason I was putting it off. It's like a 2-hour, 20-minute musical film, and I do really like some musicals, so I was kind of hoping that I would really like it. And to be honest, I actually loved this film. Like, I'd never seen any interpretation of Phantom of the Opera before. I know there's like heaps of them because it was a book and stage play and movies and musicals and everything, but I've never seen any of them, and this is the first one I've seen. And it's really excellent. Like, it's a great movie. I'm going to put it in the A tier. I'll put it up the top. Look, to be honest, I think it could even be an S tier film for me, but I've only watched it once. I just thought it was fantastic, and I ordered it on Blu-ray straight after watching it, so that kind of tells you what I thought of it. But I loved the songs in it, and I watched it a week ago, but I've had the songs playing in my head over and over. I thought Emmy Rossum was great as Christine. I thought Patrick Wilson was great as Raoul. And Jared Butler, a lot of people trashed him for his voice because he's not a singer in the film, but I actually thought he did really good. Like, yeah, you can tell he's not like a professional singer, but I thought he brought something to the role that was unique and suited the character. And the look of the film as well just is incredible. Like, it has this incredible visual style. You can tell this was a big production. A lot of money would have been thrown into it. And it just worked for me. Like, a lot of people sit on the fence with this film. People seem to love it or they hate it. And maybe it's because I haven't seen any previous versions of the film or the play or anything like that, so I don't have anything to compare it to. But I thought the film as a whole was just excellent. Like, I loved it, and I can't wait to watch it again, to be honest. But it was the last real big budget, epic kind of film that Joel Schumacher made, because after this is when he started making those, the Number 27 and Trespass and those kind of films. So this was his last really great film, in my opinion. But I'm so glad that I finally watched it, and it was a nice surprise kind of coming to the end of his filmography to see that. But yeah, highly recommend it. It's a fantastic movie. Next, we have The Incredible Shrinking Woman, which is way back at the beginning of his career. This is the first feature film that he made back in 1981, and it's just a little fun family kind of comedy film about a woman who's shrinking because of some chemical products that are in this stuff that her husband's working on. It's not a great film by any means, but it is harmless and it is fun for a one-time watch. I'll put it in the C tier because it wasn't bad at all. I guess it's more like a kids kind of film, and it could have probably been better if they had have added some more for adults and teens in it. But it worked well enough, and I enjoyed watching it, and I thought it wasn't bad for a first film especially. Next we got his follow-up film, his second film, DC Cab, and this is a very funny, satirical kind of film about a cab company and all the people that work for it. I really liked this movie, actually. I'm going to put it up in the B tier somewhere. I'll put it up high in the B tier. I was actually really surprised by DC Cab. I loved all the characters. I loved the conversations. Most of the film is pretty much politically incorrect by nowadays standards, but who cares? I thought it was funny. Because you don't see this kind of humor anymore. It's not even allowed, really. But it's so funny, and the movie was just so great, and I really attached to a lot of the characters in the film and just thought it was a unique movie, and it really surprised me because I had no expectations going in for this movie at all, but ended up really liking it a lot. And I think it's probably his funniest movie, to be honest. So next up, we have Blood Creek. This was another one of his recent ones that I didn't like. It had a unique enough premise, like it's about Nazis trying to find immortality, and then there's people on a farm and they're trying to get revenge on this Nazi and this farm family, this German family who's held them hostage for 2 years. It's got Henry Cavill and Michael Fassbender in early performances before they were really famous, so that's cool. But I watched it a couple nights ago for the first time, and I was just not impressed with it. Like, it was cool seeing them in those performances before they were famous, and it was an interesting premise. It's something I haven't heard of before, but its overall execution was just really bad. I'm going to put it in the D tier. I'll put it here below Trespass. Yeah, because it could have been good. I think they rushed through the film, though. Like, there was no explanation given ever. And this brother shows up after being missing for 2 years. His brother thinks he's dead. And suddenly they're just on this mission together to go raid this farm. And there's no explanation as to where he's been or what happened. You know, like some dialogue scenes here and there would have done this movie a lot of favors, I think. But yeah, it wasn't good. So next up we have 12. I watched this film last night. This is the last one I had to watch in his filmography. And unfortunately, it was a massive letdown. I would have liked the last film I watched in his filmography to be at least good, but to be honest, it's the worst film he's made, I think, even below Batman and Robin. At least Batman and Robin, you can get some entertainment out of it, even if it's how ridiculous it is, how stupid it is. It's still entertaining, even on the most basic of levels. But 12 was just the most dull, boring, lifeless kind of film he's ever made, and one of the weakest movies I've ever seen. It tries to kind of come to life in the last 10 minutes, but by then, you've just completely given up on the film, and there's no point. The characters are boring. There's so many cliches of teenagers. It's dull. It looks like crap, and honestly, it's just a terrible film. There's nothing I can even say positive about this film, to be honest. I hated it. So last but not least, we have St. Elmo's Fire. This is another early film he did from the 80s. You've got a lot of actors here who were in The Breakfast Club around the same time this film came out. And it's very much an 80s teen coming-of-age story. And I liked the film a lot more than I thought I was going to, actually. It's another B-tier film. I'll just put it there for now. I did enjoy it quite a bit, though. You've got, I think it was Emilio Estevez and Demi Moore. I can't remember everyone who was in it now. I saw it a few months ago, but I actually was surprised by it. I enjoyed it quite a bit more than I thought I would. And I feel like that's kind of what Joel Schumacher was trying to do with 12, was like remake that kind of coming-of-age story with teens, but from a modern age. But that 12 was just lifeless and stupid. Like, St. Elmo's Fire is actually a good film. So, yeah, that's it, guys. I've been recording for a while, so I won't bore you too much longer. But yeah, 23 films, all done. That's Joel Schumacher's filmography of feature films. As I said, like, most people pass him off because he directed Batman and Robin, but they actually haven't bothered to think about The Lost Boys or Falling Down or any of these top 3-tier films, to be honest, because, those top 5 films are excellent movies, and I ordered Phantom of the Opera on Blu-ray. I have Time to Kill. I would buy Cousins, but it doesn't have a Blu-ray release, unfortunately. And everything in the B tier is worth watching as well. So please let me know in the description, guys, what you think of this director, which movies you've seen, and if you haven't given any of these top films in these 3 tiers a go, definitely check them out because they're definitely worth your time. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.